Alright. Let's see here. Gotta log into my YouTube so I can see your guys' comments. Your channel. There we go. Watch the ad. So basically, once again, I'm running late because as you probably know, I published a video today, so I had a lot of work ahead of me as soon as I started off the morning. And right now I have the water heating up. I have most everything, well, not most everything set up. You'll see me set everything up. Hello, Haley. Hello, Core Contingency. Hello, Sylvia. Hello, Adventure Artist. Hello, Glenn. Let's see. Oh, that's right. It's midnight over there for you, isn't it, Glenn? Let's see. Kovev. Hello, Kovev. Adventure Artist says, cool, it snowed in the mountains here in San Diego, but sunny here. It snowed this morning. I was looking out the window. I was like, it's snowing. It didn't stick to the ground, but that was pretty cool. I love that it snows here. Let's see. Hello, Adventure Artist. Hello, Tyler. I am having a beautiful day, yes. Hello, RMS Queen Mary. Hello, Kraken Teeth. And Brandon, hello. So, okay, so I have to finish setting up. I want you guys to help me decide, though. Which tea should I have? Should I have Irish breakfast tea, Earl Grey, or English breakfast tea? Because I've tried all three so far, but today I don't know which one to have. So let me know. I'm going to start setting up the pastries and stuff. Alright, so I actually forgot to, like, I'm like in such a rush. So I have here a package of chocolate covered digestives, traditional tea, biscuit, and I try not to go through the whole thing because I know some people are like, how do you not eat the whole thing? Well, I'll tell you, having like hundreds of people watch me do this is a good way to deter my appetite. So, also have my Walker's Scottish shortbread. Let's see here. Take out two. I have to be really careful because I don't like to break the cookies as they're on their way out, but I'm also kind of a neat freak when it comes to removing the cookies from the packaging. And fold that over and put it away. I'll deal with that later. Okay, now you're probably going to see me. You're probably going to see me cut the sandwiches because I haven't done that yet. So why don't actually I go ahead and show you how I do it. So there we go. Here's the measuring spoon for the tea. So the cutting board it looks dirty, but I used it for the sandwiches. That's why it looks like this. It's still got dill on it and stuff, but yeah. So you refrigerate the sandwich so that way it gets a little bit, like the ingredients stiffen up, which makes it easier to cut. Although I will admit, it hasn't sat for long enough in the refrigerator today, so it's probably going to be a bit messy. So you cut the crusts off. Yeah, this is going to be messy, I can already tell. And then, there we go. I'm not going to cut it into fingers because I can already tell it's just going to squish out the sides. It hasn't been in the fridge long enough. So try to put that back together. And you know what? I accidentally bought a light cream cheese this time. Yes, I eat the crusts later. I don't throw those away. I accidentally bought a light cream cheese this time, and I do not recommend doing that because the light cream cheese does not stay together the way traditional cream cheese does. Alright. The water is boiling. Always keep a spare, whatever this is, I keep a spare little bucket here. We remove half of, this is hot tap water that's in these vessels to pre-warm. Remove half. I live in a cold area, so I can't risk cracking the porcelain. Alright. Water is boiling, so we removed half the hot tap water. Add half boiling water just to help bring up the heat. This is just a pre-warming measure. I'm going to let it sit like that for another minute or so just to heat up. There's a piece of dill on there. Alright. So, I'm going to see what you guys have suggested for the tea. Alright. I feel like this light is too bright. I'm going to turn this down a smidge. Okay. Pastries are there. Let's see here. Brandon says Earl Grey. Kraken says Earl Grey in honor of the Elder Ring, or the, Elden or Elder Ring. I think it's Elder Ring. Constant comment, loose leaf. They're all loose leaf. Glenn says try Earl Grey black, and then if you don't like it, add the creamer. Oh man. Okay, everybody's saying Earl Grey so far. Alright, I'm gonna have to do Earl Grey. So, alright, so tea infuser. Kind of set that aside. Ugh. Oh, I just got cream cheese on it. Oh my god. Ugh, I'm such an idiot. Okay. So, I've noticed with this pot, the best thing that works is 2.5 teaspoons. So, they're slightly heaping teaspoons. Yeah. I'm so, crazy about certain things. I have to have the logo facing the front of the tin. Although the tin is kind of the same on the other side, but I'm just weird. Alright. Close the tea infuser. Now it's time to dump out this water and put the boiling water in there. Okay. So, have to be really careful because sometimes the lid just wants to stay stuck on the teapot. So as you can see, you just pour that out. And now I will add the boiling water. I try to be as quick as I can with everything I do. Fill that with boiling water. And that with boiling water. Alright. Oh, yeah. Tea infuser. Be really careful. If you buy one of these teapots, be really careful with the lids. They have little tiny, lips or whatever you want to call them that hook underneath the the underside, and you can break those off if you're not careful. What else was I going to? I don't know. Okay. So the water is there. I'm eating a bit of the crust of the sandwich. But yeah, I accidentally bought the light cream cheese. Total accident. The taste and the texture is just not the same. Like, when you put it in the sandwich format, it liquefies. The taste, not so cream cheesy. So it's just, that was an accident. So today I'm going to order more groceries because my friend is coming to visit this weekend and he'll be staying here. And one of the things he really wants is one of these tea sandwiches, and I have to make it right. I can't let him have a badly made tea sandwich. So let's see who is here. Oh, I didn't even check the time. So let's say 4:10, 4:15 is one of them. Okay, so yeah, I'll try the Earl Grey before I add creamer. Do I still add sugar? Yeah. Tyler Frederick says, Alex, have you heard of the SS America of 1940? Yes, I have. I actually featured the ship in one of my Queen Mary videos. Cracking Teeth Gaming says, you need a sharper knife, my friend. Yeah, it's not the knife. I mean, it is the knife, but the knife, I had just finished using it for like cutting up a bunch of stuff, and I didn't have time to wash it and then re-hone the steel because I have a honing steel and I didn't have the time to wash it and do all that, so I just cut it with what I had. But the other problem is, again, these sandwiches, they do that anyway. You have to refrigerate them for at least an hour. This was only refrigerated for 15 minutes. So you have to refrigerate for at least an hour for the sandwich to stiffen up, because otherwise it's soft. There's nothing in there that is hard. And then lastly, the other thing too is that the cream cheese in the sandwich is subpar. So it's just liquefied. So the whole sandwich just went like that. So it's not necessarily the knife. It's the fact that it's the wrong ingredient and it wasn't in the fridge long enough. But then, of course, the knife was dull because I just finished chopping a bunch of stuff and I didn't have time to rehome the steel. So, Empire of Waterloo asks a serrated knife. You can try a serrated knife, but what I figured out is that sometimes with serrated knives, you see the best way to cut a sandwich like this with a serrated knife is to hold both sides of the sandwich, pull the serrated knife back, and cut it in one clean swoop. That's the best way, but even then, sometimes, depending on the serrated knife and the quality, it'll pull the cucumber with it, and it'll pull it right out of the sandwich. So, I personally don't own a serrated knife that is high quality, so I don't trust it. The highest quality knife I own was the chef knife you saw, and I trust that with cutting straight down. So, the bread is cut in perfect, the bread is perfectly cut. The sandwich just smushed because it just wasn't cold enough. Let's see. Sylvia says, Alex, how much do those chocolate digestive biscuits cost on Amazon? They come in 3 cylinders on Amazon, and I think it was $15, I want to say. So it amounted to about $5 each when you split it 3 ways. And now that I just finished that one, I'm on my last cylinder of digestives, which we'll probably have this weekend when we have tea. Let's see here. It might be time for the tea, actually. So these black teas, you steep them Anywhere between 4.5 to 5 minutes. I try to do 5 minutes because I just like the teas strong. So I just like the bolder flavor when they're... So, yeah. And then I try to extract as much of the really concentrated liquid from the thing before removing it. And it's really hot. Okay. Now we can dump out this water. It's really hot. Thought I saw a crack, but it's not a crack. I was like, there's no way I cracked that because I've been taking really good care of this tea set. That's really hot. Oh my Lord in heaven. The handle of that teapot is really hot. Good Lord. All right, I'll pour it in just a second. If I point the camera down, then you can't see my Cunard poster. It's supposed to be like a Cunard thing. Oh, I guess I could. Why is the lighting so terrible? Is it because of that? Oh, yeah. Oh, I guess I can point the camera further down. I think that's... Yeah, that's the whole tea set right there, so... Alright. I wonder if that light change helped. It looks better than it did before. I'll give it that much. Oh, right. Gotta pour the tea. And... Do I add sugar first? Because Glenn says to do it without the cream first and just see if I like it, but should I put sugar? Because I know some of these teas can be... Glenn says, I would suggest you try it plain first, then add additions to suit your personal taste. Oh boy. Oh, gosh. You know... Of course, it is like practically boiling hot. Smells amazing, though. I do not regret buying these Twinings teas. They are the most aromatic, most flavorful versions of these teas I've had so far. Let's see. Haley says, did you hear that Disney will be removing the To Honor America float at the Main Street Electrical Parade and will be replacing it with Disney characters? It's a Small World float. That's really strange. Huh, I didn't know that. Alright, time to try the tea plain and see how I need to adjust it from here. I only had like a drop in there. I gotta try that again. It's so hot, that's why. But I don't want it to get too cool, or else if I have to add cream, it'll be cold by the time I add cream. That's good, but not my preferred way. So let's try it with a spoonful of sugar. It'll help the Earl Grey to go down. Let's see here. I did not properly seat that on the... There we go. Matthew Richards says, I've been debating about the Queen Mary, Queen Elizabeth promo poster you have up on your top right since seeing your apt tour video. I have now decided that I have to have my own 20 by 30 copy. That's a big size. I think this one is only 11 by 17. So yeah, that's a big poster you're going to buy. Empire of Waterloo says, we're making the cucumber sandwiches as we watch your stream. Thanks for the great new tradition. Oh, you're welcome. I'm really glad you're trying this along with me. Makes me feel like I'm not alone doing this. Alright, let's see. That's certainly better with a spoonful of sugar. I could definitely see myself drinking that black. I could. I really, really could. But I still prefer it with the creamer. It does. I will tell you though, the flavor by itself when it's black is definitely different. When you add a spoonful of sugar into it, I know I keep saying spoonful of sugar, but a spoon of sugar into it, it adds of course the sweet note to it, which actually brings out the flavor of the citrus. It actually tastes like someone took a sweet lemon and just squeezed it into this cup. It tastes citrusy. It's very good, and not too tart. So I don't want it to sound like I'm saying it's tart, but it's not too tart. It's a slight tartness, but all the citrus. It's really good. But I'm accustomed to cream and sugar. I don't know. Maybe I just grew up that way. At my cafe, we used to serve... I'm going to top this off. At my cafe, we used to serve single origin coffees. And so... Just a little bit. And so the best way to have single origin coffees is as is. You brew them black, no sugar, just drink it that way. Of course, if you have to have sugar, minimal amounts of sugar. That's how we did it. And I loved it as a treat, but generally I preferred the espresso drinks. So I'd always gotta concentrate so I don't spill the cream. Just a little bit. So I would have the black coffees on occasion if I wanted to really see how the season has changed the flavors and stuff like that. But generally speaking, I preferred cream and sugar. Well, you can't put cream and sugar in a single origin coffee. Let me tell you that right now. You cannot put cream and sugar in a single origin coffee. It doesn't work. Because it's a single origin, it's got a specific flavor. And so, because of that, you will ruin the coffee and you're not going to like it. And so you can't put cream in a single origin coffee. Sugar maybe, but it's best to have it by itself. But yeah. Alright, so let's see here. Tyler says, I can see you're a little tense. Yeah, I was rushing to get this all done, and yeah, I finished making a video and posted it, and so it's just, and after this, I have to work on another video because I have to meet a certain quota for this month, and I'm going to be busy this weekend, so I might do another Queen Mary update video and have that posted tomorrow, because there has been some news, and I will need to kind of round up some information, and because a lot of people have been asking questions and I gotta answer some of them. So let's see. Matthew says, I have one of the cup and saucers you have, and one bigger one produced in 1966. Surprised by their durability. Truly fine china, really lightweight and yet incredibly strong, even the 50, 60 years later. Yeah, I will say that the thing about this china is, in terms of temperature shock, they can be, on the, like right now I have cheap coffee mugs in my cabinet. If I were to just take them cold and pour boiling water straight into them, they'll be fine. But these things, they will experience shock and they will crack if you suddenly shock them with boiling water when they're cold. Aside from that, they're really durable if you're just gentle with them, They don't develop scratches easily. You have to really get in there with a knife and fork if you want to scratch the plates. That kind of thing. So, yeah, I don't, I think I really love it, I do really need to get another cup and saucer like this one here, because the second one I have has a crack in it, and I don't think it'll be the same if I get it repaired, and even if I do, I don't believe that historical items should be repaired unless they are extremely damaged. So I do need to get another cup and saucer, so that way if I have a guest over, they can have tea with me. I've debated about using this one, but after seeing what happened to the other broken teapot, when you put the tea in there, it'll just stain the crack, that tea-colored, color, and it'll just ruin it forever. All right, let's see. Matthew says, Matthew's talking to somebody else. Matthew says, since discovering natural milk-based creamers, Chobani, without sunflower or veggie oil, I've done away with the extra step of cream and sugar. Less authentic and charming that way, but efficient. Nice, yeah. Hey, Fox Starline. Yeah, I'm extremely lactose intolerant, so if I overload myself with too much dairy products, I will have the worst stomach ache for hours. So I use oat milk. So the cream I poured in there is actually oat milk. However, the cream cheese in the sandwiches I prefer to be authentic. Thankfully, I have yet to have a terrible stomach ache eating these sandwiches, so that's good. But I do know if I just went one step further and put regular cream in the tea, I would just have the worst stomach ache. I'm actually going to move this over because I need the teacup near me. All right, Scottish shortbread first. Matthew says, I share your Queen Mary update videos a lot. When people get heated and cynical about certain fragmented matters, your updates are perfect peacemakers. Thanks. You mean like heated and cynical because they're arguing about the fate of the ship? Or just in general, it's just good to watch a video and get your mind off of other matters? I'm curious. Hello, Linda. She says, always miss your live streams. Good to see you. Good to see you, too. I wonder how many people are watching. 32. On here, it says 11 people are watching, but on my computer, it says 32. That's always cool. So, Sylvia says, any tips for a first-time tea drinker? First-time tea drinker, I would say start with a more mild-flavored tea, such as English breakfast tea. Try it black, and if you need to add cream and sugar, add cream and sugar. And yeah, make sure you follow the right brewing time and temperature for tea, because you want to boil the water, but you don't want to stick the tea in boiling water. So I always wait like a few seconds, even 30 seconds will bring the temperature down to like closer to 198 degrees Fahrenheit. Because at boiling temperature, that can damage the flavor of a lot of things, including coffee. So tea, you want it super hot, but not hot enough to damage the flavor. So yeah, I boil the water, I'll put it in the teapot, wait a few seconds, I'll know that it'll cool down just slightly, and then I'll put the tea in there. And then you want to brew the tea for the correct amount of time. They say between 4.5 and 5 minutes. 4.5 for a slightly lighter tea, 5 minutes for something darker, more robust. I do 5 minutes because I'm used to drinking like coffee, so I need drinks that are like bold flavored. Yeah, ironically, I'm having the Earl Grey tea, and this is probably the lightest of the flavors in a certain way because it's more citrusy, if anything, than having that dark, bold color flavor. Brandon says, how did you get into ships? So, like most people, I got into ships because when I was a kid, I watched the movie Titanic. When the movie Titanic came out, it was in all kinds of theaters, and so my grandfather took me and my sister to see it in a family-friendly theater. So, no scene between Leo and Kate. So I saw it that way. And that's how I learned about Titanic. I learned more and more about it over the years. In 2012, during the 100th anniversary of the maiden voyage of Titanic, I built a Titanic model. And in order to build the model as accurately as I could for my inexperience, I did a lot more research on it. I started really getting into Titanic around 2012. But my love for ships in general started in January 2020 after visiting the Queen Mary. The Queen Mary was the second steamship I've ever encountered and ended up loving in terms of learning about it. And now my obsession is entirely the Queen Mary, mostly, but because of learning about Titanic and Queen Mary, I discovered other ships. So, a whole bunch of stuff. So that's how I got into ships, actually. And now I prefer to talk about ships more than anything. So, at least passenger ships from before the 1930s. I can't think of a post-1930s steamship that I really like that much. I'm the same way with trains. When it comes to trains, I mostly like trains that are before the year 1900. If they're in the 1800s, generally I like them. Fox Starline says, I'm also lactose. I ate cheese a lot. Don't affect me, but ice cream and milk kills my stomach. Yeah, sometimes cheese doesn't affect me. It's ice cream and milk and really like liquidy, milky products, that kind of thing that gets to me. Of course, cheese will get to me if I eat enough of it. Yeah. I'm not sure why. I know a lot of people who are lactose intolerant experience that if it's cheese, it doesn't always bother them. I can't help but wonder if it has something to do with the way we eat the cheese. We're usually eating it melted on hot food or something. So I can't help but wonder if the cooking process, I don't know, changes something about its makeup that makes it, the lactose, I'm trying to think, does it break down in heat? That's something I don't know. I don't know if lactose breaks down in heat. Let's see here. Matthew says, exactly. On the fate of the ship, especially when you hear in danger of collapsing, people comment about it and not being worth it or complain about lifeboat removal without full info on the plan. Yeah, I've heard a lot from the like the whole, oh, they shouldn't be taking down the lifeboats people. And I try as much as I can to tell them it's not a matter of want to take them down. It's a matter of have to save the ship. Nobody wants the lifeboats to come down. I want them to stay up there. I want them to make replicas. But what I want is not going to happen. At least not now. What we need to do, if we love the ship and we want it to continue to be open to the public, we have to just accept that the lifeboats are coming down and it's for the good of the ship. Because it really is. I've done my research. It's for the good of the ship. It's not, the city didn't spend all, $2.5 million to take them down just because it was fun. The city has other things that they'd rather spend that money on than that. But, it had to be done. All right, I'm going to have one of these sandwiches. Like I said, the light cream cheese just makes it so liquidy. Thankfully, the dill and the garlic saved the day. Because it's not, the light cream cheese doesn't taste as cream cheesy. And so the dill and the garlic really bring it together. But this is falling apart as I'm holding. Oh my god. It's a mess. I'm going to have to get a fork or something. I should not have bought that cream cheese. I don't know. Ah, I'm clean. Okay. I saw it and it was a deal and I bought it. And I've been kicking myself ever since. Let's see. Fox Starline asks, what are your top favorite liners? Or top 5 liners? Top 5 favorite liners. I'm going to say top 5 favorite liners. Queen Mary at number 1. Mauritania from 1909? Or is it 1907? I always get the Lusitania Mauritania years confused. I think it's 1907, 1909 or something like that. So Mauritania is the second one. Queen Elizabeth, so comes after. Let's see. Who else would I line up right behind them? I said it in another live stream, and now I forgot the order in which I like these ships. So I'm going to have to say, I know Oceanic is on my top 5, but I don't know if it's number 4 or number 5. Okay, I'll say after Mauritania will come Olympic, Titanic. It doesn't matter, they both look so similar. Olympic, Titanic, and then finally Oceanic. Those are my top 5. Queen Mary, Mauritania, Queen Elizabeth, Olympic, Titanic, and Oceanic. Those are my top 5 for today. Unless I forget again what my top 5 are. Let's see. Tyler says, your poster on Queen Mary, Queen Elizabeth, have it on a bookmarker, or in a bookmarker. Oh, nice. Yeah, now that I have this place, I want to try to make artwork that I can put in bookmarks and sell those. We'll see. I've been so busy this month, I haven't been able to actually work on the second channel. Mm-hmm. Mysterious Walkers or Wanderer says, have you visited Tokyo Disney Sea? No, I haven't left the United States before. Matthew Richards says, just came to mind, far-fetched, but one day A portion of train accompanying Queen Mary not too far from the ship herself to explore and with restaurant. Surrounding needs more immersion. I don't understand what that means. Like to put a train near the Queen Mary so that you can explore it? I suppose so. I think that would be nice. It'd be really cool if they could recreate kind of like a more romanticized version of an ocean liner dock next to the Queen Mary. Something with, shops and eateries, a train that can, be explored, with maybe from the 1930s, kind of like the Cunarder that used to take people to the Queen Mary from other parts of the UK. The Cunarder used to do that. I forget where the Cunarder went, but it went to the Southampton docks to drop people off. That's what I know for sure. But yeah, so it'd be kind of cool if they recreated the Cunarder or something, and then like a little like shopping and eating district there that resembles something like a romanticized version of a ocean liner port. Let's see. Glenn says his top 5 is Titanic, Lusitania, Queen Mary, United States, Queen Mary 2. Ah, nice. That's a good list. Armis Queen Mary asks, why does Queen Mary have 4 propellers? Well, the 4 propellers is what gives it the extra power it needed to go at a really fast speed. Otherwise, it would just go very slowly. Haley says, did you hear that the early reviews for Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser have been bad? I haven't heard the early reviews, but it does not surprise me. I knew it was going to get bad reviews. Do you think it's possible to take a transatlantic one day aboard Queen Mary 2? I'm trying. I really want to do it. Winter of 2023 is my goal. I'm going to try to do that with a friend. And so, yeah, I want to take a transatlantic crossing on the Queen Mary 2. But it costs... We can find a good deal, but even the good deals cost a lot of money. I'm trying to build up the amount of money I earn each month so I can save a little bit towards that. Mike Martin says, how about the Armis Aquitania, the last 4-funnel ship to be scrapped? The Aquitania looks beautiful on the inside, but I can't stand the way it looks on the outside. I can't stand it. I think it's a really ugly ship from the outside. Almost as ugly as Normandy. I always love saying that because it's true. I don't like the Normandy at all. I hate it. I think inside and out, I think it's ugly. But that's just my opinion. Fox Starline says, someone said to me the other day that Queen Mary can be moved. And I said, yeah, 2 feet, then sink. It's true. The ship is fine staying perfectly still where she is, surrounded in her breakwater. But the minute you try to take her into open water, where the water level is constantly changing, and because of the waves and stuff like that, the swells, those things will cause the ship to flex, which was fine 80 years ago, but the ship is, some of its steel is approaching 90 years old. It's not good for that kind of movement anymore. It's just not. It's not the steel that's the problem. It's how the steel was assembled is the problem. So, Charlie asks, is this blue cheese? No. It's cream cheese, mayonnaise, and then what you're seeing, the multiple colors, is dill, freshly chopped dill. It's also seasoned with garlic, and salt. But it's the wrong kind of cream cheese. I bought the light flavor, and now it's falling apart in my hands. I'm not kidding. This is a sopping wet mess. I do not recommend it. Get the better cream cheese. Get the real cream cheese. Oh my gosh. Tyler Frederick says, I heard that you want to do another video before your friend arrives, but I want to tell you, don't stress. If you do it, great. If not, don't worry. It's not like that. This is my job. My YouTube channel is my job. It's how I make money. Without the YouTube channel, I don't make money. So I have to produce content that entertains people. I need them to watch it. I need them to watch the ads. The ad revenue is how I make money. So I need to meet a certain quota each month, or else I can't afford this apartment. So I have to produce. If it's a slow month, like this month's been a slow month. Not as many people have been watching my videos as usual. So in times like this, I have to produce more videos to make up for it. So that means being extra, I have to work extra hard because since less people are watching individual videos, I have to make them watch more quantity of videos. So there's people on my channel who really hate me, and they try to thumbs down my videos. If you really want to do damage, the thumbs downing doesn't work. Just don't watch my videos. That's what'll be the problem. The second you click on the video, the second I make some money off of you. Fractions of a penny, but still. Let's see. Sue says, Alex, go to fineartamerica.com and get yourself a Queen Mary duvet cover. Really? Do they have that? Is it original or is it brand new? Doesn't matter to me, but I'll buy one either way if I have the money for it. But let me know. Fine Art America. Charlie asks, can we see the view out your window? No. Because outside my window, there's some trees, but then you can see the other building, which has the address on the outside of the building. And I don't want the public to know my address, because that's how I stay safe and private up here. So, yeah. Let's see. Glenn says, I pay for YouTube Premium so don't get adverts. Do you still get a cut from my viewing? How does it work? Yeah, so if you have YouTube Premium or whatever other stuff, I think there's also YouTube Red or whatever. If you have that stuff, then I still get some money from you. I think I still get either the same amount or a little bit more, because even though you're not watching advertisements, a portion of that money from what you watch comes to me. But yeah, most of the bread and butter of the thing is people watching ads. Mike Marin asks, do live streams pay? They do. So this live stream is monetized, so probably when you clicked on it, you saw an ad. And so, but usually you only see one ad throughout the live stream. But I don't know, I think after it's published officially, after like I'm done streaming and it's published publicly, I think every couple minutes or something they put an ad in there. So, Charlie says, would it help if Jeff Bezos sponsored you? Oh, yes. But I don't know him and he doesn't know me. Fox Starline says, don't lie, Queen Mary's right outside your window. I wish. If I could have the Queen Mary right outside my window, that'd be cool. Unfortunately, she's 1,000 miles away, so I need a heck of a good set of binoculars to see her from here. Matthew Mahoney says, will they build a Cofferdam around Queen Mary? So that's one of the options, but they haven't decided officially yet, like, I gotta put this sandwich back together. They haven't decided officially yet how they're going to tackle that. So they're either going to build a permanent dry dock that can be used for other ships after they fix the Queen Mary, or they're going to build a temporary cofferdam around the Queen Mary where she sits. Gosh, this is like falling apart. But they haven't decided yet, and the reason why is because the city of Long Beach doesn't want to keep owning the Queen Mary. They want her to stay there, but they are trying to give ownership of the Queen Mary to the Port Authority, the Port of Long Beach, because they have deeper pockets that can handle the ship's expenses. And they have the ability to actually build things and develop the land next to the ship, which the city just can't do. The city of Long Beach just doesn't have enough money to be the ones to take care for the ship. That's why they've always leased the ship out to other companies, because the city itself just doesn't have the money to run a tourist attraction like that. Even if the ship was successful, they don't have the resources and stuff to do that. They're a city. So they're going to try to give the ship over to the Port of Long Beach, and the port has all these plans on what they're going to do, but they haven't decided yet. So we will see in the future if the port decides to build a permanent dry dock that they can use for multiple ships, or to just put a cofferdam around the Queen Mary. The thing is, though, is if they do the cofferdam idea, they may or may not be able to get to everything they need to fix on the Queen Mary, because a dry dock has, a certain amount of space and a certain amount of equipment around it, whereas a cofferdam, you only have access to one side of the ship, and and you'd have to do everything with limited means. You know what I'm talking about. It's it's like the difference between taking your car into an auto body shop for repair versus fixing it on the side of the road. You'll get better results if you take it into an auto body shop because they have all the equipment there. So it's the same thing. Charlie says, my boyfriend Jack loves Queen Mary and Queen Victoria. Nice. The people or the ships? Core Contingency asks, would you please be so kind as to talk about the kitchen sharing between Bengal Barbecue and others? So at Disneyland, there is an area that sits on the border of Frontierland and Adventureland, and there's, by technicality, there's a few restaurants. There's Golden Horseshoe, Stage Door Cafe, Riverbell Terrace, and Bengal Barbecue. Those four restaurants are in such close proximity to each other that they actually share the same kitchens with each other, or at least used to, because I know that that's the dill. because I know that the Riverbell Terrace became a table service restaurant since, a couple years back. Table service restaurants work in a different part of the department, so I don't think they share the same kitchen anymore. My point is in the past, when it was part of the quick service restaurants, as the others were, they all used to use each other's kitchens for certain things, because there was a main pantry in the back where they could, cut up the fruits and vegetables that were served at the various restaurants. So Bengal barbecue and stuff, they had certain things there that were prepped in the Riverbell Terrace's kitchen. And it's really complicated, though, because that kitchen isn't the end-all be-all for those 3 or those 5 restaurants. I'm sorry. Even the Riverbell Terrace kitchen, there were things it couldn't do at the time, and they would require the help of the main kitchen underneath New Orleans Square to provide them with certain things like sauces and roasted meats. I know they used to roast the turkey themselves in the Riverbell Terrace, but the beef would have to be roasted in the main kitchen in New Orleans Square. So it's really complicated, but they used to share kitchens and stuff like that. I don't know how it works now because, like I said, Riverbell Terrace is now a table service restaurant, and that's a slightly different part of the department, and they may not be using each other's kitchens anymore, so they probably have a different arrangement. Alex says, can you spill the tea on all the YouTube secrets? I don't know what you mean. Charlie says, do you visit the Queen Mary each day? No, I don't. I live 1,000 miles away from the Queen Mary. Queen Mary's in Southern California. I live in Portland, Oregon, so I don't have any access to the Queen Mary. Mysterious Wanderer says they should sell the Queen Mary to New York Harbor Authority. She'd never make it there. The whole thing about selling the Queen Mary, the whole thing about selling the Queen Mary is that whoever last owns her has to fix her. If you want to move her to another city, like New York, you would need to make her seaworthy, so that way she wouldn't sink on the way there while she's being towed. The thing about that, though, is the current repairs that she needs is to make her seaworthy anyway. And as soon as she is fixed up enough that she won't sink while being moved, you might as well keep her because she earns the county of LA $290 million a year in tourism. There's a lot of people who hate the Queen Mary. They're like, oh, scrap her. And the thing is like, those people, they're so passionate about getting rid of the ship. But what they don't realize is that the ship makes 1/6 of the tourism for the county of LA and 1/3 of the tourism for Long Beach City. And like I said, she earns $290 million a year in tourism for the county of LA. If you take that money out, a sixth of their local economy will be destroyed. Just gone. Just like gone. And, it'll directly affect the jobs of about 1,300 people, because she does employ that many people, 1,300. And it will directly affect the jobs of approximately 9,000 to 10,000 other people who are indirectly employed because of the Queen Mary. It is economically irresponsible to let the ship get scrapped or destroyed, and that's why the city of Long Beach has opted to repair the ship. They did look at scrapping and sinking. It is the most expensive option is to scrap and sink the ship in the long run, because not only do you have to pay all those expenses up front, and no, despite what some people say, like, oh, you can just sell her artwork and make the money back. No. The city of Long Beach looked at that option. While her artwork is worth a lot of money, most of it can't be removed unless it was destroyed. Literally, because most of the artwork that is left on the Queen Mary today is literally part of the structure. So you can't remove it without destroying it. And so there's things like that that's going on. And like one of the most valuable art pieces on the Queen Mary is a bas relief. It's a I don't think it is plaster. Actually, I think it is Italian marble. I'm not for certain. Anybody who knows better than I do about this, let me know. But it's the mural, the bas relief that's in the first class main lounge, and it's got the unicorns that are fighting. That thing is one of the most valuable things on the ship. Unfortunately, you cannot take it off the ship without destroying it in the process. It doesn't come off. It was never made to come off. So a lot of the problems is that. So these people who are like, oh, just sell the artwork and then use that to fund the scrapping of the ship. It doesn't work that way. The city looked at it. They hired a third-party company to come in, look at everything and go, here are your options, City of Long Beach. And none of those options at all pointed that the best idea was to sink or scrap the ship. It just in no way would work out to anybody's favor. The Queen Mary only twice in its life has ever used city taxpayer money. Only twice in its life. The rest of the time, the city has either been privately funded or funded using fees generated from the transactions made when people buy tickets at the cruise terminal, or from the fees that are incurred from Long Beach's oil fracking, which goes into the Tidelands Fund. That's how the Tidelands Fund gets funded. It gets funded from Long Beach's oil fracking money. So it's not like the Queen Mary is literally like, you know, getting money poured into it from individual taxpayers who are, you know, trying to put food on their table. That's not how it has been working. It's always been either private or from fees coming from other parts of business. So the ship is not literally weighing down its citizens. So there's no reason to literally remove the Queen Mary, and that's why they've decided to restore her, because she'll make a lot more money if she is financially viable. And she is. Again, those crazy people will be like, oh, well, not even Disney could make her a success. Disney didn't try. They wanted to build a theme park next to her, yes, but they didn't care about the ship. They wanted the land next to the Queen Mary. So they never actually did anything to help the ship. If anything, they destroyed the ship further and made it harder for the ship to get tourism. They didn't care about the Queen Mary. And a lot of the other leaseholders didn't know how to operate the Queen Mary. They treated her like she was an airport hotel, a place you go to stay because you need to. They always advertised, stay on the Queen Mary and go to the city of Long Beach. No, that's not how you should treat the Queen Mary. If you want it to be a success, you have to tell people that they need to stay on the ship. Don't go to the city of Long Beach and buy your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner, and all your souvenirs. Stay on the ship, buy your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and all your souvenirs. There needs to be reason for people to stay on the ship, and you can do that if you hire someone who has experience creating immersive entertainment, such as former Disney Imagineers, many of whom have either been recently laid off or have quit because Disney is moving to Florida. So, you know, there's plenty of people out there who can help the ship get more popular, but they just don't. Sylvia asks, will Queen Mary reopen as a museum and hotel? So I heard that they're going to try to reopen the ship as a museum before Halloween of this year, but the hotel portion might not open until early 2023. And part of that is because they still need to do some other repairs to allow the hotel portion to open. They need brand new boilers for heating the water for the hotel guest rooms, as well as the the kitchens of the ship, and they also need a backup generator for emergency power. The backup, both the boilers and the backup emergency generator that they have they're so old and non-functional anymore. They just need replacing. They can't even fix it. That's how bad it's gotten. So those things make it so they can't open the hotel until at least early next year. But as a museum, it should be open by Halloween. Let's see here. Wolf Gaming says, what's the situation with the SS United States? Are there any plans to start restoring the ship? No. At the moment, the ship is still in its usual limbo. The problem with SS United States is, aside from the engines, there's nothing left on it. All the walls, interiors, everything is gone. Everything's gutted. Anything that's left is rusting and damaged, frankly. The ship is... If you ask me, the ship is hopeless. There's nothing left for the SS United States. It was hopeless 10 years ago. It was hopeless 20 years ago. And so, I know that's a different tune than I usually sing for the Queen Mary, but that's because the Queen Mary was operating up until 2 years ago. SS United States, it's been decades. And so, there's no prospective buyers who want to purchase the SS United States and restore her. For one, because all the money they sink into the SS United States to make her profitable won't actually return profits. She can't earn enough money back to pay off her expenses. Especially because SS United States, anywhere it goes, will have to pay port fees. So, thankfully, the Queen Mary doesn't have to pay port fees for docking, because essentially, to put it in a way that's easy to understand, the Queen Mary owns the land she's sitting on, or floating next to, so to speak. So when you get the Queen Mary, you get the land. That's how it works. The city of Long Beach has kept the Queen Mary as not as a foreign thing that is paying port fees to stay there. The land and the Queen Mary are one and the same. But that won't happen for the SS United States. SS United States will rely on paying port fees to wherever it goes, unless that city has decided to keep it as a landmark. Which will be hard to do. Core Contingency asks, were you there when the Chevron sponsorship combined the Autopias? No, that was too long ago. I was a kid when that happened. I hired in at Disney in 2009. Matthew Richards says the Queen Mary made over $300 million for the city of Long Beach in 2019, according to a report I read. I was stunned, thankfully stunned. If that's true, then wow, because yeah, the report I read was for 2018. So yeah, 2019, if she earned even more money that year, wow. Yeah, the Queen Mary. You know, the common story that goes around is, oh, the Queen Mary can't can't even turn a profit. And the thing is that's a really complicated story. The Queen Mary, in a way, does turn a profit when it was operating, but not direct profit. It profits the place it's in. It earns profit for the city and the county. The ship itself couldn't earn profits for itself in recent decades because, well, frankly, the organizations operating it, I don't know, maybe they just haven't done the right things to make it, generate a profit. But yeah, all I know is one of the main reasons why people weren't going to the Queen Mary as often in recent years is because of its maintenance downfall. I mean, the thing is that people go like, oh, well, the ship just can't be profitable. It can, but who's going to want to stay on a ship that doesn't have hot water for your hotel room? You're not going to want to take a cold shower. You're paying a lot of money for that room. So, of course, you're going to have people who have that experience and not come back. Then the other thing, too, is, some of the other things they dropped in the final years before the ship closed due to COVID, they dropped room service. So you couldn't order room service. When I was there in January 2020, I was there on a weekend. And the only restaurant they had open the entire day was their little cafe on the promenade deck. Just one cafe, when the ship had several restaurants. I know because we wanted to eat at Sir Winston's, and it wasn't open that weekend. Refurbishment? No. Just wasn't open that weekend. How do you expect to make money off of weekend travelers if you don't keep the stuff open, And then, of course, lastly, people go there because they see the brochures with all the beautiful, Art Deco rooms that the ship has, the giant public spaces that are, by the way, locked because they use them for banquets instead of actually letting people tour them. Sometimes you have a tour guide who's really generous and they take you into those rooms. But if you can't walk into those rooms yourself without paying extra money, that's not fair. People aren't going to want to stay there. So, of course, the Queen Mary didn't make money. You can't just expect to, lock up half of Disneyland and be like, oh, yeah, enjoy your day. So it's the same thing for the Queen Mary. You don't lock up half the ship and say, oh, yeah, have fun. Thank you for paying us $40 per person plus $18 of parking, just so that way you can't see anything but the top decks, the promenade decks, and the hallways. Like, that doesn't make any sense. From a business standpoint, that's one of the worst things you could do. So I want to tell people, you want to know why the Queen Mary hasn't made money? Just spend a day there and you'll see why. Those things could be easily changed, and you'll make more money that way. So, yeah. I love ranting about the Queen Mary, because it's just, people blame the ship. They're like, oh, the ship just can't make money. No, it's not the ship. It's the operators. The operators don't know how to make money off of the ship. So, yeah. Arma's Queen Mary says, why do people hate the Queen Mary? Two reasons. One, either they don't know the facts behind the things that they accuse the ship of, or two, they hate it because it's not Titanic. I'll be honest with you, there's so many Titanic people that come on my channel and they're like, I hate Queen Mary. And they say all kinds of things, but what it really boils down to is because it's not the Titanic. So, Fox Starline says, Disney just bought her to look good. Yeah, exactly. Well, they didn't even buy her. They didn't even want the Queen Mary. They got the Queen Mary because they were trying to acquire the Disneyland Hotel, which was owned by the Ratherport Corporation. And Ratherport did not want to sell the Disneyland Hotel to the Disney company. So Disney decided they were going to buy out the Ratherport Corporation to acquire the Disneyland Hotel. When they did that, they ended up owning the leases and the contracts to several other properties. And that included the Queen Mary and the Spruce Goose, or H4 Hercules. And so Disney was like, great, we have this giant ship that's in disrepair. We have no idea what to do with it. And they were like, let's we have all of our best Imagineers, all of our best executives, all of our best people are working on theme parks around the world. So all we have is the people who are left in the company who aren't on those projects, and we'll put them on the Queen Mary. And that's what they did. They assigned, the Imagineers and stuff who weren't assigned to the best projects, and they put them on the Queen Mary. And they said, look, you guys have to make the ship successful for us, but with the least amount of money that we can give you. And so the first thing those Imagineers said was, ghosts are free, so we can play up the ghost hauntings of the ship, and that'll make more money. And it worked for a little bit. It really did. It did boost the popularity of the Queen Mary a bit more at the time, because they were going with the whole, hell is on this ship kind of thing. So yeah, it was not good, in my opinion, for a long-term solution, because while ghosts and stuff are popular for Halloween and that kind of thing, you don't want to stay in a haunted house during Christmas time. That's just, people aren't in the mood for that kind of thing. The ship has to be able to attract people during all times of the year, not just Halloween. So the whole haunted aspect of the ship is good for certain things, but that shouldn't be the main focus. And that's what Disney did. They put the haunted aspect as the main focus. And now half the people I talk to are like, oh, I'll never stay on the Queen Mary again, it's so haunted. And I'm like, see, that is why the haunted aspect is a bad thing for business. Because people say they're so scared they don't want to stay on it. Well, there you go. You've just blocked out half of your visitors. You got families who have little children who don't want to stay on the Queen Mary because they don't want their kids to be scared all weekend. That's like the wrong aspect. Imagine if Disneyland was like, oh, we're going to start promoting the fact that Disneyland is haunted. Well, great, you're going to lose all your families, because families don't go to haunted places all the time. I'm telling you, bizarre business choices. I mean, you agree with me, right? You see what I'm talking about, right? Like bizarre business choices that work in the short term but not in the long term. So Sylvia asks, when was the Disney era of Queen Mary? Disney had the Queen Mary between 1988 and 1992. Possibly 1987, but the contracts were still going through then. So technically 1988 through 1992 was the Disney era. They only lasted 5 years because, like I said, they didn't care about the ship. They wanted to develop the land next to it. So when I hear people tell me, oh, well, Disney couldn't even make the ship successful, it's like they didn't want the ship to be successful. If they had the choice, they would have sold the ship to another country, who probably would have taken better care of it, to be honest. Fox Starline says Disney repainted her funnels way red. Really? I thought they painted her funnels overly orange. I don't know, but... Well, you make a good point, because I better mention this. Some people are telling me, oh, Alex, the red color on the funnels on the Queen Mary today is not accurate, so, they need to repaint it orange again. Well, the thing is, actually, that's not entirely true. I have a few pictures of both Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth in the late 1960s, just prior to when they were sold off. Their funnels were painted that red color we see on the Queen Mary today. And then a lot of people don't know this, but in 1936, the Queen Mary also had that same red on her funnels. It's just that a lot of pictures back then were black and white, so it's hard to tell that it was even red, but you'll know that if you see old footage or old pictures of Queen Mary in 1936, you'll notice that the funnels look almost black on the images, and that's because she had such a dark red on her funnels, the red we see today on the funnels, and it actually made her funnels look like she belonged to a different company. So Cunard was like, oh, we better return to our Cunard orange, and that's what they did. They returned to the regular Cunard orange after that, and then in the 50s she had the I would say it's like a very light orange as well. But anyway, the point is that twice in Queen Mary's life, her funnels were painted that same color of red. So the color of red that's on her funnels today is accurate to 2 different times in her life. And I have photographs to prove it. It's on my computer. So, as for what Disney painted her funnels, I can't picture it off the top of my head, so I don't remember if that was accurate or not. But I do know the paint she has today is accurate. Matthew Mahoney asks, what's going to happen to Queen Mary's boiler rooms? So, what they're doing in the boiler rooms, and it's possible, I must start off with this, it's possible the boiler rooms may or may not be used again for tours, because I took the Iron and Steel tour, whatever it's called, back then, and I toured the boiler rooms. But the reason why they might not have that anymore is because to make the boiler rooms easily accessible, they cut holes in the sheets of metal that were watertight. Now, it's important I say it that way because many people will say, oh, they carved big holes in the bulkheads, which destabilized the ship. That's not true. That's not true. They cut holes in between the steel supports for the ship. They didn't cut holes through the steel supports of the ship. So what they cut to allow walkways and tourism access was in between the support stanchions of the ship. So yeah, just have to put that out there because big thing. But because they cut holes in those watertight bulkheads, the bulkheads are no longer watertight. And so if the ship were to ever start flooding for any reason, if it were to start flooding, that water could spill over into the other compartments of the ship more easily. So what they're doing is they're actually repairing up to 15 feet of those watertight bulkheads. So whatever parts of the openings are there that are underneath that 15-foot height marker, they will have to they're gonna put steel plates over it and make it watertight. So they're rebuilding those bulkheads up to 15 feet. They may or may not end up reconstructing the concrete walkway that goes through them at a 15-foot height. I say may or may not because I really don't know if they will. But the other thing too is they're installing bilge pumps. The ship has not had working bilge pumps in about 25 to 30 years. And the bilge pumps are really important because the bilge pumps can help to slow a major leak if there is one. They pump out the water as it comes in. But the bilge pumps are also used to keep the ship level. So if for some reason the Queen Mary, started listing to one side for any reason, maybe there's extra weight added to it or something, or if the Queen Mary was too high in the water and it made it top heavy, they could add water ballast to it and sink it a little bit further into the water. So the bilge pumps, they haven't had those in a long time, and so they're adding those 11 brand new bilge pumps, not restoring old ones. The old ones aren't even there anymore. they're adding 11 brand new bilge pumps to be able to do those things for the ship. In fact, the bilge pumps were really necessary. I was talking to somebody who said that he worked at the ship a long time ago, and what they used to do was, the reason why the water line of the ship on the outside isn't so badly corroded as other ships are is because in the old days, when the bilge pumps were still working, they would fill one side of the ballast of the ship, so the ship would tilt a few feet out of the water on one side, and they could repaint the water line. And then they would let that dry, and then they would fill the other side and do that to the other side. So the reason why the Queen Mary's water line is actually really, really well preserved compared to other ships of her age or younger is because they were still painting the water line of the ship up until, almost 30 years ago. So, remarkable. It's almost like the ship is alive, if you really think about it, because when you think about all the times the Queen Mary avoided absolute destruction. Like, if you think about all the times the Queen Mary has been through a situation that should have ended the ship, and you think about the fact that she's still here today, and she's still fighting. We thought the Queen Mary was a year ago, we thought the Queen Mary was for sure going to be scrapped. The Queen Mary's life was at its lowest ebb yet. And the ship is still fighting. This ship does not give up without a fight. I was reading about the Queen Elizabeth, the original Queen Elizabeth from 1938, 40, whichever you want to call it. But 38 launched, 40 when it went into war. But I was reading about the original Queen Elizabeth. There were at least 3 small fires on the ship over the course of its lifetime before the final fire in 1972, destroyed it completely. But yeah, the Queen Elizabeth had 3 small fires on it. Queen Mary has never had a small fire on it. Knock on wood, whatever, never had a small fire on it. Astounding. The ship is in bad shape, as we might call it. We see the carpets are torn. We see that there's a leak here and there in the ceiling. Those are all bad things, believe me. But nothing that says the ship is sinking right now or it's burning right now. So it's amazing. It's really amazing how this ship has held on for so long. Like, it's got a will to live. That's why when me and my friends talk about it, we talk about it like it's a living thing, because it's almost like the ship is a person that has the will to live despite all the odds. It's amazing. So, Bride Vale says 2 questions that I think might be the same. Do you know of anywhere the Queen Mary had to launch a lifeboat? Were the accident lifeboats ever used? Yes. I don't know if you've heard of Ralph Rushton. He was a former crew member on the Queen Mary from the late 50s, early 60s, and stuff like that. He's talked about a few situations where the lifeboats had to be used. But one in particular that comes to mind is there was a storm out on the Atlantic, and there was I want to say it was a freight ship that was near the Queen Mary or somewhere along the route, and it was getting tossed around in the storm, and a crew member on that freight ship got very injured. I think broke a leg, broke an arm, probably broke a few ribs or something like that. Very, very injured. And they were in need of surgery, corrective surgery, immediately. Unfortunately, they only had a basic medic on their freight ship. And the Queen Mary was going through the area. They sent out a distress signal. The Queen Mary received the distress signal. She was the closest. And the Queen Mary stopped. And Ralph Rushton was among the people who helped to get the injured man aboard. What they did was they they took one of the lifeboats. I want to say it was an accident lifeboat. I'm pretty sure, because that's the ones that were used for those very purposes. But the Queen Mary had a fully working hospital aboard the ship with doctors and nurses, a surgeon, in fact. So the Queen Mary had a working hospital, and because she was the closest as well, she was able to take that passenger aboard. So Ralph Rushton went on the lifeboat. I want to say it was the accident boat. And they lowered it, went to retrieve the injured guy, brought the boat back to the Queen Mary, and I think they couldn't immediately bring the lifeboat up on the davits because the sea was just churning beneath them. So I think what they did was, I think he said they opened a hatch on the side of the ship, which is a very risky move, but not as risky as trying to haul up a lifeboat while, everything is just, So they opened a hatch on the side of the ship, they tossed down a rope ladder, and they had to try to carry this guy up the rope ladder. He's in a special sling. I think I might even have saved a picture somewhere of it, but he's in a special sling, and they carry him up the rope ladder into the hatch of the ship. And I think they said that that after the man was on the ship, then they tried to make attempts to raise the lifeboat with the davits. And they eventually did. They got the lifeboat up with the davits. So, yeah. So that was one instance where that happened, but there were several instances. Even if you've watched my video about the Queen Mary during World War II, there's a scene in there where I talk about how the Queen Mary was the major factor in winning the first battle at El Alamein. And the Queen Mary delivered 10,000 American troops to that battle. And there were other military ships there to rendezvous with the Queen Mary and help offload the troops who were on the Queen Mary to bring them to the land. Because obviously you can't beach the Queen Mary to offload troops. They had to get there somehow. So there were other ships there that, using the hatches on the sides of the ship, they offloaded the troops onto smaller vessels, which then drove onto the beach. But if I have the information correctly, some of the Queen Mary's lifeboats were used to directly bring troops to the beach. They were in such a dire need because Rommel's forces had forced the British 8th Army against the beach. They were right about to lose the battle. And so they were in such a rush that they used some of the lifeboats to actually load, almost 200 men onto each lifeboat and drive them to the beach directly. And I think the photo I used in the video, if you look at the very back of the beach in that photo, you can actually see the shape of a Queen Mary lifeboat on the beach. It was literally, run aground to drop off the men. So the only thing was I couldn't 100% guarantee it, so I didn't mention that in the video. But I'm like 90% certain that in that photo was a Queen Mary lifeboat sitting there on the beach. So yeah, the lifeboats were used, and they were kept maintained for years. Sorry, that was a long explanation, but it's a fascinating story. I hope you thought so too. Let's see. Jeremy Fowler says, with only 30 people watching, why are you so scared to show the view? You're not PewDiePie. Because, Jeremy, there's 30 people watching at the moment, but after I end this live stream, it'll easily say that up to 200 to 300 people were watching the live stream. There's people popping in and out constantly. And then in a week, that number will have doubled to 700. And then in a month, that number would double to, 14, 15, 1600. So a lot of people watch my videos. I have in the past, there was one time I went to Disneyland and I filmed a video and I was showing what I was eating. I didn't notice, but on the table was my receipt. On my receipt had my full name on there. believe it or not, many people think my name is Alex Abner. That's an alias I came up with. My real name is different. But it had my full name on there, and someone saw it, and like a week later, they came to my house to visit. Now, thankfully, they were friendly people, but the thing is that that was really scary because I don't want people coming to my house to visit. That's not appropriate, you know. This is my private place, you know. It's my place to stay. So, you know, that and I have met people who don't like me. I'd be at Disneyland doing a live stream, and all of a sudden I got interrupted one day by this guy who just wanted to give me a piece of his mind. He just really hated my channel, and so you run into people like that. You can't risk it. You can't risk it. I think most people would understand. No, I'm not PewDiePie. But believe it or not, you don't need millions of followers to run into the wrong people. You know, it takes just a couple hundred even. So, there are people who, I will guarantee right now, they clicked on this live stream just to give it a thumbs down. There's people out there. Try to skip ahead a little bit because I know I'm like behind on these comments. Mike Marin says rants are good. Yeah, thank you. That's what I love to do on these live streams, rant about subjects I'm passionate about. Let's see. Yeah, I gotta catch up on these. Haley asks, what do you think was the worst year in Disneyland's history? That's easy. 2020 was the worst year in Disneyland's history. Evan Scott says, can you see the engine room? I'm assuming you mean when the ship reopens as a museum. I think so. I think when the ship reopens as a museum, probably before Halloween, I think the engineering spaces will be open, but I don't think you'll be able to see the boiler rooms or the water softening plant. So it's just going to be the engine room and the shaft alleys, and then you can go up the next 2 levels to see the steering room, the steering gear room. But everything forward of the aft engine room will probably not be open at all. I say probably because I don't know for certain, but that's my best guess. Let's see. Pookie Smoochie says, hey Alex, glad to see I finally caught you live. I enjoy just listening to you talk. You have a great speaking voice and I always learn something new. Oh, thank you. So nice of you to say. Brian says, hello Alex, nice to see you. I have one question. Do you think that the SS Vaterland and RMS Majestic are the same or not? I don't know. I don't know enough about those ships to say anything about them, to be honest. Lively says, any information about food and restaurants in the Queen Mary once they restore it? I don't think the restaurants will be open when the Queen Mary reopens, because part of the reason why the hotel portion isn't opening is because they don't have working boilers for hot water or backup generators for emergency power. So those, speaking from experience in the food and hotels industry, those things go hand in hand, food and hotels. So if the hotel can't be open for those reasons, the restaurants wouldn't be either. I think when the Queen Mary reopens on Halloween, it'll just be for tours and walking around it, but not for staying on the ship or eating on the ship. Hopefully they will get brand new boilers and backup generators in time for a early 2023 reopening. Let's see. Kovev asks, does the Queen Mary have anti-aircraft guns on her deck for the museum part of her, or were they removed? The original anti-aircraft guns that the Queen Mary used or not used, but had in World War II, were removed after World War II. But they have a long time ago, I forget when, probably the 80s, maybe even the 70s, who knows. An anti-aircraft gun was installed just forward of the superstructure on the ship. I don't believe it is the same kind the Queen Mary had on her World War II voyages, but it's an example that she had one, or had multiple actually. She had 33, but yeah. So it's not an original, but it is a World War II original. That's for certain. It was probably a surplus anti-aircraft gun that the city of Long Beach had, and then they installed it on the Queen Mary while she was in Long Beach. So, Matthew Mahoney asks, what was Queen Mary's best year of service? That's hard for me to say, because I feel like I still don't know enough about her early years. It certainly wasn't anything in the late 50s or after that. It had to be in either the 1930s or the late 1940s. It's really hard to say. Yeah, I'm just going to have to tell you, I don't know enough about the Queen Mary to be able to positively say what the best year was for her. Matthew Richards says in Long Beach they put 2 anti-aircraft guns on her. Then where's the second one? There's only one on there right now. Haley asks, what do you think was the best and worst decade for Disneyland? Best and worst decade. Best decade for Disneyland was the 1960s. Worst decade for Disneyland was actually 2 decades. It's not 20 years, but in between the decades. So the worst decade for Disneyland was between 1995 and 2005. That was the worst decade in Disneyland's history. Let's see. Alex asks, who were the most well-known Queen Mary restroom attendants? I don't know. Brian asks, is the submarine that is next to the Queen Mary going to get moved, or is that going to stay? Nobody knows yet, because the situation is an ongoing legal matter. There is currently no owner to the submarine, and therefore nobody to pay for its removal. The city wants it removed. It actually pretty much has to be removed. It is in such bad shape. Engineers who surveyed it said that it was full of holes. It was completely flooded. The outer hull is worn to tissue paper. It is so badly corroded, and the engineers believed that if they tried to carry it out of the water, it would just break apart into small pieces. So It has no valuable artifacts on it. Anything that was valuable was removed a long time ago. So it's definitely got to be scrapped. Definitely has to be. But as to when, nobody knows. It's an ongoing legal matter. Hello, Jaffa Cake. New subscriber to your channel from England here. Oh, thanks. Thanks for joining. I'm getting to the end of my tea time here. It's already been an hour and 46 minutes. Unbelievable. I'm having Twinings Earl Grey. I think they call it a Foggy London or something because I put cream and sugar in there. Alex says, why 1995 to 2005? A lot of people say that's the best decade. Who says that? That's the worst decade. In that decade, Disney saw a lot of original attractions close. The park received like almost no maintenance, and there was even a question as to whether or not the Disneyland Railroad was going to continue. They were, thinking about closing it at that time. There was so much going on between 1995 and 2005. It was the worst decade in Disneyland's history. The park was just in shambles, just destroyed. It looked like it hadn't been taken care of at all. Just the worst. 2005 was the start of a whole new decade, which saw among the best decades of Disneyland's lifetime. So 2005 was like a complete 180 from what 1995 was. I mean, look at this. Look at 1995. That was when the People Mover closed. They already had the Skyway closed by then. They lost so much. It was bad years for Disney. Alex asks, is this team's tea set from the Queen Mary? It is. So half of it is from the Queen Mary, the other half is from the Queen Elizabeth. The only exception to that is my butter pat plates in the corner here, which are from the QE2. So I was just looking at that, but yeah, from the QE2. But everything else is Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth. The oldest piece I have is from the early 1950s, but the newest piece I have is from 1967. So it's an old set, and definitely one that I treasure. I love this tea set. Glenn says, I have to be up for work in 6 hours, but I'm waiting till the end of the stream. Are you sure? Oh my gosh, you should go to bed. Oh my gosh, I gotta end this stream just so that way Glenn doesn't miss out on any more sleep. Oh my gosh. The Cunard White Star Line asks, hi Alex, do you think the Queen Mary will have any of Mint's gutted or damaged interiors restored? Or of its gutted or damaged interiors restored? No. Not currently. The QMI Foundation, QMI Restore the Queen, the one that I volunteer for, we want to see gutted and destroyed interiors restored. One of the easiest spaces that could be restored is the second-class library. Most of it's still there. It's just closed and dirty. And so that's one of the easiest places that could be restored on the ship that would help generate revenue. And then the synagogue. Its furniture is in different places, but the walls and everything are still in there. All the amazing work. And so, there's spaces on the ship that could easily be reopened with, a few hundred to a few $1,000s of input. But certain places, like the second class dining room or the third class dining room, those would take hundreds of thousands of dollars to restore. It could be done if QMI was there to help raise money for it. But we need the city of Long Beach, or whoever ends up owning the Queen Mary in the future, like the Port Authority, to allow, QMI to raise that money for them. So if you guys want to see the Queen Mary restored, help get the word out that QMI wants to raise money for the Queen Mary. They have money already to raise money for the Queen Mary. The only problem is that there's no one to sign the checks to. The city of Long Beach, they've told them several times, hey, we've got money. It's for the Queen Mary and only for the Queen Mary. Who do we give the money to? And each time they just go, thank you for your interest. We'll let you know. And then it's never happens. So help us get the word out, please. Brian says about the whistles. So, interesting fun fact, if you watch my video called The Voice of the Queen Mary, the Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth, they both had, by technicality, they're called horns. But it is a old seaman's tradition to refer even to horns as whistles. So, while the Queen Mary's horns are traditionally horns, they are called whistles. That's one of the biggest things that people like to nitpick at as I've had people tell me, like, Alex, those aren't whistles, those are horns. And it's like, I know they're horns, but by tradition, they are always called whistles. In fact, the company that built Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth's horns was Cockham Sonics, and they're still around today. And they are called Typhon whistles. That's the name of the whistles. They're called Typhon whistles, but they're horns. So it's, if people say that if people like to call them horns or whistles, it doesn't matter to me. But it is important that if someone's going to be like, hey, you can't call them whistles, it's important to let them know that, yes, you can. I've seen so many people just, hassle other people because they're like, that's not a whistle. And it's like, yes, it is. It's called a whistle, even though it's a horn. Charlie asks, Alex, if you could travel back in time, would you stay overnight in the Queen Mary if it meant meeting their ghosts? Yeah, I would. In a heartbeat, I'd do it. Because I really want the experience of staying aboard the Queen Mary. Kovev asks, is it possible one day the cargo holds in the Queen Mary will be open for viewing? I doubt it, because that's where the Queen Mary's archives are. And they don't want people having access to the archives. So I doubt it. Alex asks, could you see Disney buying the Queen Mary and putting it as an attraction in the Rivers of America? The Queen Mary is larger than the Rivers of America by 2 times the size. The Rivers of America is 700 feet long, but the Queen Mary is 1,019 feet long. And to be honest, the Queen Mary is almost as wide. No, actually, the Queen Mary is wider than the Rivers of America. If you measure from one bank to the other, the Queen Mary is wider than it. It would never fit in Disneyland. In fact, the Queen Mary is so big, she could go from the hub of Disneyland and stretch all the way to the railroad, either in Tomorrowland or in Frontierland. But either way, she's so big, she would take up half of Disneyland. That's how big the Queen Mary is. She would never fit in Disneyland. And Disney doesn't want the Queen Mary. They never did. So... Yeah, Fox Starline says QMI. Me and Alex are a part of basically advisors. Yeah, um, Fox Starline and me, we're advisors for QMI. Volunteer advisors. Charlie asks Alex, what would you do if they hired you to solely repair the Queen Mary? If that's what they did, then the first thing I would do is I would get all my friends at QMI to come in and help me. Cunard White Starling says, hi Alex, me again. I've been subscribed to your channel for 2 years and you have inspired me to start my own ship channel. Awesome. Nice. Charlie says, Alex, with all your knowledge, couldn't you restore the Queen Mary yourself if given a tool set? No. I can do simple things like replace wiring or stuff like that, repainting stuff, but carpentry, which the Queen Mary desperately needs, because almost everything on the Queen Mary is made of wood. I'm not good at carpentry at all. Matthew Mahoney asks, next Queen Mary update video. I'm hoping to do one tomorrow. So we have some people from QMI who are going to be visiting the Queen Mary tomorrow and try to gather some information on the current events of the ship, and then they will relay that information to me, and I will fit it into an update video. So I'm hoping tomorrow. Pookie Smoochie says, do you have a public Instagram? No, I do not like Instagram. I have a Facebook page. So my Facebook page is Alex Adner, A-D-N-E-R, or you can find, or actually that's my Facebook profile, but my Facebook page is Alex the Historian, so you can find me there. Let's see here. Alex says, how about if they put the Queen Mary in DCA Lake? It's still too big. The Queen Mary is so large, she would take up most of the length of DCA. She would stretch from the Ferris wheel all the way to the entrance to Adventures Campus. She's so big. She just doesn't fit in a theme park. There's no theme park I can think of that has a lake big enough for the Queen Mary. Even Epcot, with its massive lake in the center, the Queen Mary is still too big for that lake. It's just too big. Eric says, you distracting yourself from life's worries in tea and biscuits? Yes, tea and biscuits are the best way to escape life's worries. And a nice cup of tea. Brian says, why can't I send link to a live stream? I don't know. If you're trying to send it to somebody else's YouTube channel, then YouTube will flag it and won't let it show up. But if you're sending it personally to someone, then I don't know. I don't know what's happening with that. Let's see. Dark Lightning, thank you so much for the $5. Dark Lightning asks, how much of Disneyland would the Olympic take up? Well, the Olympic was 882 feet long. So let's see. What in Disneyland? What can I point to in Disneyland that's around 882 to 900 feet long? So if you were to put Olympic in the middle of Disneyland with the bow touching the hub, where Walt and Mickey are, she would stretch from there to just past the Storybook Land canal boats. So the north side of Storybook Land canal boats. So that's how big Olympic would be. Or another way to think of it is if the bow was touching the hub of Disneyland, she would get to about, let's see, to about Center Street, crossing through Main Street, USA. So Main Street, USA has an area called Center Street. No. She would go further than that. I'm sorry. She would go to about the start of Town Square. So right where Town Square turns into Main Street, she would go to right there. That's how long the Olympic would be. And Olympic, let's see, 92 feet. So Olympic would be too wide to fit in between the buildings of Main Street, I believe. Yeah, too wide to fit through the buildings, in between the buildings of Main Street. That's how big Olympic would be compared to Disneyland. Although Olympic would likely fit in the lagoon at Epcot. That's for sure. Yeah. Let's see. Queen Mary's really that big, you sure? Yeah, I'm sure, Alex, because I've been studying the size of Disneyland for years. I know it like the back of my hand. Okay. Disneyland is just about 2,200 feet wide. Now, I know that from the hub to the end of Tomorrowland is approximately 1,000 feet. From the hub to New Orleans Square is approximately 1,200 feet. So I know that that the Queen Mary, if you tried to put her hull against the hub and then the front of the hull against the hub, her rudder would end up touching the station at the Disneyland Railroad. That's how big the Queen Mary is. The Queen Mary is also 118 feet wide. The Main Street buildings, from one side of the street to the other side of the street, is approximately 65 feet. The Queen Mary is 118 feet wide. She would never fit in between the buildings on Main Street. I know this stuff like... I'm such a nerd, you guys. I'm such a nerd. Like, I know so much stuff because I spent my whole life trying to, like, imagine scenarios of, like, airplanes and boats and ships trying to fit in Disneyland or stuff like that, you know. In fact, I'm pretty sure that I almost thought about, like, what if Disney tried to bring, you know, like, build Titanic in Disneyland? And that's how I know Titanic wouldn't fit in any Disney park, because back then I actually asked that same question, so, and I went out looking for it. Wasn't the Queen Mary modeled after the Mark Twain? Not at all. What? No. The Mark Twain was a stern-wheeled river paddle boat. You know, from, I want to say, 1870s. The Queen Mary is an Art Deco liner from the 1930s ocean liner with propellers. It's two very different ships. Two very, very, very different ships. Kovev says, need to go donate to QMI after this live. Yes, donate to QMI. They are looking to restore the Queen Mary. You know, they are a fundraising company. That's what they do. They fundraise. You know, they're a non-profit, but they fundraise for the Queen Mary and just the Queen Mary. So all their stuff has to do with saving the Queen Mary. And that's why I volunteer for them, because I believe in them, you know. So, Linda says, thank you, Alex. Time to say goodnight here. Take care, and I'll catch you next time, says Linda. All right, see you, Linda. Some of these questions are so silly. I've never heard of that book, Matthew. Yeah, Alex, I've never heard of... I mean, I don't think I've heard of any Queen Mary conspiracy theories. Yeah, Fox Starline. I don't see any similarities between Queen Mary and Aquitania. I see, if anything, if anything, I feel like the Queen Mary looks more like the original Mauritania. If anything, just like when you look at the bridge, and then like the shape of the superstructure, like Aquitania has such a flat front, but like the Queen Mary's curved shaped superstructure reminds me of Mauritania. So I'd say if anything, Queen Mary looks more like Mauritania. Um, Glenn, did you go to bed already? I don't see you in the chat. I'm curious if you went to bed already. Um, oh, so many questions coming in. No, Alex. I think you're making things up now, Alex. You're making stuff up. Tyler asks, what do you think of the movies Queen Mary was in? I mean, you might as well ask me what do I think of the movies themselves rather than just because Queen Mary was in them. The most recent movie I saw that featured the Queen Mary was Being the Ricardos. It's a movie about Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, and it was a really good movie, really really good, and quite a few of the scenes were shot on the Queen Mary. In fact, one of the scenes, the scene where she's getting fired from RKO, I was like, or was it? Yeah, it was RKO. Yeah. The scene where she's getting fired from there, I almost didn't even recognize that scene was shot in the Queen Mary's first class smoking room. It looked so different, but the thing that gave it away was the fireplace. I was like, oh, that's the fireplace. But yeah, so many scenes were shot on the Queen Mary, and some of them were very heavily decorated to look different, but that's a good movie. Some people think that the movie, the original 1972 Poseidon Adventure, was shot on the Queen Mary. It wasn't. I've tried looking through it. There isn't a single scene that was shot on the Queen Mary, but there were sets that were designed to look like the Queen Mary slightly. Like a lot. Like I know one person thought that one of the scenes was shot in the Queen Mary's ballroom, which the Queen Mary doesn't have a ballroom, but I think technically that means the main lounge or the first class dining room. But either way, none of them were shot on the Queen Mary. So, thank you again, Dark Lightning. How much of Disneyland would the Georgic take up? Oh, I don't know. I don't know enough about the Georgic. I can't even picture the Georgic in my head. I don't know enough about it, unfortunately. I'm still new to ocean liners. Matthew Richard says, there's a conspiracy theory for you. Queen Mary switched with Queen Elizabeth. I can't, that made my night. That's funny. Matthew says, some of the first profile sketches of Queen Mary do resemble Mauritania, Lusitania. Yeah, I think there's a reason behind that, honestly. Mauritania and Lusitania were some of the most successful ships for Cunard. So Cunard tends to make their newer ships look like their most successful ships a lot of times, which is why the QE2. No, the QE2 actually didn't look anything like another Cunard ship. What am I thinking of? Queen Mary 2. I'm sorry. Queen Mary 2 looks a lot like the QE2. More so, I would say, than the Queen Mary at all. Stephen Housley says, do you think the prime days of Disneyland are over, or can it make a comeback? I think they're over. Because you can't make a company as big as Disney revert back to how they used to be in the good old times. They change with the times, and you also have to look at the day and age we live in. Disney is always trying to stay fresh and new. And so they're always going to follow the tastes and the styles of the age they are in. So, unless the age we're in tends to revert back to some of the style and mindset of the 1960s or the 1970s or even the 1980s, we may not ever see that again. So, no, I don't think Disneyland will get better. It's only bound to keep changing and keep changing beyond what we recognize it to be. One day, maybe when we're old, we'll go to Disneyland and we won't even recognize it. It'll look like a parody of itself. I'm sure that's how some people think of it. I mean, Imagineer Rolly Crump, he doesn't even like going to Disneyland anymore because to him, Disneyland is so different from how it was when he was helping design it that he doesn't recognize it, and he feels all the love is lost. And I agree with him, all the love that the company had that went into Disneyland is gone, and now it's just a money-making thing for them. Has been for 30 years at least. Oh, gosh. Yeah, Nicole Kidman was really good in that movie. Matthew Richards says the recent Lucy biopic had Queen Mary featured. Now I have to see. Yeah, they filmed a lot of scenes in that movie on the Queen Mary. You have to keep your eyes, sharp on it because some of the scenes, they look so different you wouldn't recognize the Queen Mary. Like I said, the scene where she gets fired from RKO, I almost didn't even realize that was the first class smoking room because it looked so different. But again, the fireplace gave it away. So, Matthew Mahoney says, did you see the movie Titanic 2? No. I don't like to watch movies that I know are not good. I don't like to. Some people like to watch, those hokey movies, those cheesy movies. But I'm not one of those people. I don't like to waste my time watching cheesy movies. I feel like there's so many good movies out there that I haven't seen yet that I'd rather spend my time watching. Haley says, I think the golden years of Disneyland was 1967 to 1994. I'd have to agree with that. Yeah. A lot of amazing things happened in the late 1960s, especially with the addition of New Orleans Square, the addition of the new Tomorrowland. Oh my gosh, so much went into Disneyland. I mean, I was never a fan of Bear Country, but Bear Country came in 1972, so... Charlie, it's not an official sequel to Titanic. It's just a spoof. Dark Lightning asks, was Disneyland ever interested in the Flying Scotsman? No, because Disneyland's railroad is a smaller scale, so the Flying Scotsman runs on a width of rails that we call standard. Of course, in Britain, it might be a slightly different measurement than in the U.S., but nevertheless, Britain's, Flying Scotsman ran on standard gauge railroads. Disneyland's railroad runs on narrow gauge, which for the United States generally means 3 feet. So, just under a meter. So yeah. So the Flying Scotsman would never, ever fit on the Disneyland Railroad. Even if it could, it's too heavy for all of the Disneyland Railroad's bridges. The bridges aren't strong enough for an engine that big. Charlie says, Alex, there's a piece of cheese left on your plate. That's not cheese, that's a cucumber. Charlie asks, would Queen Mary 2 fit in Disneyland? Well, if the original Queen Mary can't fit in Disneyland, Queen Mary 2 certainly couldn't. Queen Mary 2 is 100 feet longer than the original Queen Mary. At least, I think. Was it? Queen Mary 2 is 1,180 feet, is it? So, over 100 feet longer than original Queen Mary. And she's wider. I think Queen Mary 2 is around 130 feet wide, I think it is. Let's see. Has it been 3 hours? It's been 2 hours. 2 hours and 16 minutes. Let's see. Matthew Richards says, another celebrity boards Queen Mary, i.e. Kidman, long after her sailing years. She is a fighter indeed, yes. I think Lucille Ball was also on the Queen Mary as well. Way back in the days when she was sailing, that's for sure. Alex, will Disney ever build a ship like the Queen Mary? Never. Never, never, never. They have no need to. Chris with a K is here. Hello, Chris. Standard gauge railroads are the same as the railroads in America. They actually brought the Mallard to the U.S. for touring a while back. Really? That's pretty cool. Charlie asks Alex, if you were captain of the Queen Mary for one day and navigate it, where would you go in its current condition? I'd go down with the ship because that's where it's going. It would sink immediately as soon as we brought down that rock breakwater and said engines ahead. As soon as it started moving, we'd just go down. The ship would never be able to take sailing again. Matthew Richards says, Disney ships resemble Mary more than modern Cunard ships, QM2 exempted. Love them, but facts are they do. That's true. The Disney ships do resemble more of the old Cunard look. Yeah, but in terms of Disney ever building an ocean liner that resembles an old ocean liner, I don't see that ever happening. ScanFan Ed asks, Alex, does your family members watch your videos and live streams? My family does watch my videos on occasion. They're not obsessed with these topics like I am, so they only tune in once in a while. But my family does watch my videos. They don't watch my live streams, though. I gotta stand up because I'm sitting all this time is like hurting me. So let's see here. Haha. Yeah. All right. Oh, Charlie, your question would take a long time to answer. Charlie, why don't you watch my December update on the Queen Mary, and that'll tell you everything you need to know about the Queen Mary's current condition, and you'll see why the ship can't sail. Cunard White Starline asks, if you could restore one gutted area of the Queen Mary, what would it be? One gutted area. Technically, the synagogue is gutted. I would restore that in a heartbeat if I could. But if you mean like gutted as in even the walls are brought down, what would it be? It's a tough question. You see, logically, I would say the third class smoking room, because that's an area that was technically gutted and turned into something else. It's currently the Cunard Story exhibit, and almost none of its original fittings are in there anymore. It's just a museum now. And because it's located on B deck, B deck? No, A deck. Because it's located on A deck and it's so easy to access, logically I'd have to say restore the third class smoking room. But then there's another logical space. The Queen Mary's wedding chapel is actually the second class smoking room. In the second class smoking room, all the wall fittings are still there. There's just church pews in there and stuff, and that could easily be turned back into the second class smoking room. But then another part of me says, well, what about restore the second class dining room? Well, that's great, but how are people going to get down there? Because there's currently no way for a visitor to get down to the second class dining room. There's no way currently. So you have to restore that too. And the last place I would say to restore is the third class dining room, which is right behind the first class swimming pool. That's still accessible, and it's almost completely gutted. So they could restore that, and that would be easy to get to from our deck. So those are my choices. Foxryan says, those long bows and the black sleek hulls, perfection. Oh yeah, the old ships look so beautiful. So beautiful. Alex says, we have a similar look. What ethnicity are you, Alex? I am half white and half Hispanic. Matthew Richards says, would love to see an original enclosed promenade deck on a modern cruise ship. But that's a thing of the past. Yeah, I don't understand why ships don't have enclosed promenade decks anymore. I mean, you could still use them, you know? Like, I don't understand. Like, even the Queen Mary 2, like, if you want to take a walk around the ship, you have to use the outside promenade, or sun deck if you call it. But it's like, you can only use that in fairly decent weather, because if it's stormy weather, you would be knocked off the ship. So I don't understand why the Queen Mary 2 doesn't have an indoor promenade. I'm sure people want to take a walk around the ship, even in stormy weather, you know? Weird. Alright, I'm going to end this live stream because we've been going on for a while, so I'm just going to see if there's anything else I need to say. Evan Scott, the synagogue needs to come back. Yep, I agree. Matthew Mahoney says, what's left of Queen Mary's working alleyways? It is halfway gutted. It's completely gone. They removed the deck. But there is still a working alleyway from the former D deck. I think today that would be considered C deck. Yeah, today it would be considered C deck. There is an alleyway that goes closer to the bow, towards the midship. But then at the midship, it's cut off because they removed the lower level in order to give more space to the what is it called? To the convention center. A lot of people think that the removal of that deck has weakened the ship. It has not. If anything, it's lightened the load, because that's just more load that was pressing down on the support structure of the ship. So it actually hasn't weakened the ship. It's lightened the load, if anything. But nevertheless, it's sad that they took it out. But that's all there is to that one. Matthew Richards says, I want to say pretty much everywhere smoking was allowed. minus certain areas, of course. That's one reason why she has that nice musty aroma today. Well, I know they allowed smoking they allowed them in the lounges, the smoking rooms, and the cabins. But I wasn't aware that you could just walk around the hallways with a cigarette or walk into one of the restaurants with a cigar. I don't know. Oddly enough, I was in the first class smoking room and it didn't smell like cigarettes or cigars at all. I would think that space would smell even more so, if anything. But yeah. Glenn is still here. Oh my gosh, I was asking. I was like, are you still here? You need to go to bed. Okay, I'm going to have to end this live stream so that way Glenn can go to sleep. Glenn needs to sleep, you guys. Glenn needs to sleep. Alright, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. This live stream went on a really long time. I'm hoping to do my next tea time this Sunday. Probably early, actually. It won't be an afternoon tea. It'll probably be, if I do a live stream, because my friend is coming here, it'll probably be just before noon. Yeah, just before noon Pacific time. So that means those of you who are on the other side of the pond, such as you, Glenn, will probably be awake for that if you're not out and about. But anyway, yes, it'll probably be before noon. If not, there will be a live stream on Tuesday with my friend, because we have time for that. But that will also be a noon live stream. It won't be afternoon tea. But after that, our schedule will continue on. The schedule, as I'm hoping, will remain Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays. So, alright, folks, thank you all so much. And stay tuned for a Queen Mary repair update coming soon, and some more ocean liner videos. And be sure to watch my latest video, the whether or not the Queen Elizabeth was the fastest between the two queens. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.